Hello, welcome to my chamber. Okay. Let me do this real quick. Crazy. I literally just did a reading. Same big three as you. No lie. This happens like this kind of stuff happens all the time with me, but like, come on. Like literally Gemini moon, Cap or Scorpio sun, Cap rising, and also Mars and Libra. And not born like 10 years before you also. So yeah, pretty wild. So yeah, basically, uh, yeah, there's some differences, but um, so with your chart, you're really trying to. I'm gonna go off camera so I can meditate and get in my zone. You're really trying to go, so you have like your South Node with Jupiter, so it's in Sag in 12th house. So you have esoteric spiritual knowledge slash like higher wisdom philosophy that comes very naturally for you. Um, the thing with that, and let's pull this up, is that with your moon in Gemini, your North Node there as well, you're here in this lifetime to really just learn about the experience of acquiring information. Um, Not like for doing a fucking project or something, but information for, I call it like data, right? Like we create data in life, or we find data, through our experiences in life, and then that's Gemini, and then Gemini's opposite sign Sagittarius is how we take that data and connect it to grander concepts. We create concepts of our that represent our subjective personal truth. So you've been very, very good with this. Since it's in the 12th house, you have a karmic tendency to really be Pisces Sag. That's like me. That's just what I mean. But like, like very, very, very tuned in. Now in this life, you're meant to be more public in the sense that you're like, I mean, I have no doubt that you are like and if you're not like a very mystical person or like very spiritual, I'd be like surprised. There because that would just mean that there's just latent talents, right? But you know the only thing to watch out for. So Jupiter on the South Node, it also kind of gives the theme of like Jupiter is it's just like a really good karma. Like with any like Jupiter or Venus like Sun on the South Node, you have to watch out for entering this life with kind of like entitlement, just because like um, or like any kind of ego. Everyone has an ego, but you know what I mean. Just because like in that whether it's one or two or multiple incarnations, you were like Jupiter in the South Node is someone that was in a high position in society, and perhaps even got there by working kind of behind the scenes. But through that, the soul remembers, right? So there's things that we innately know. Of course, like the brainwashing society tries to like, you know, push it away from us. But there's things that like why do you think some people just know things? Like they just know, like they can just feel, like when I was learning astrology, I could just feel what was real and what wasn't, right? It's past lives. The soul, doesn't consciously remember, but um, there is that process. So yeah, and then you have Antares Mercury with oh wow, so you're super intelligent. although it could be like a very, is Chiron going to be in Gemini or yep, yeah, it's on your moon. So you're probably someone who is very intelligent, but maybe didn't get the recognition for it when you were younger. There could be some stuff, some pain with the mother or just like the early nurturing in general. Um, but yeah, like a moon Chiron person is someone who goes through pain, so it's very likely that because Uranus and Mercury, that's like one of the genius aspects. It's someone who thinks outside the box. It's someone who um isn't a is like very inventive and um really lightning fast kind of brain. Like they can just take in so much information. They can receive downloads from who knows where, and just know things, right? It's like these thunderbolts of, so it's really like a Ferrari, and it's about learning to to drive it, to not let it kind of, or it's like having nine horses. Um, how do you get them all to drive in the same place? How do you get them all to kind of calm down a little bit, right? How do you tame them? So, but yeah, like Uranus, like with Mercury in the 12th house, with Jupiter, like you just know things and they come very naturally to you. And it's like other people struggle to understand these things that to you, I definitely feel you on this one, like are very just common sense, like it's uncommon common sense, right? And the world is just so bad right now in that area. And people can have different reactions to that, right? People can kind of just shut down and be like, all right, well, screw the world. I'm just not going to deal with it. But it's really important to, to still speak your truth, right? And to still and of course, like, one of the things with that Jupiterian energy is to not force your truth down other people's throat. Like it's really because like you could like a lot of like this 12th house energy I'm seeing, it's like it's very secretive. Like it might not be visible. Like your level of intelligence, your level of of just really like the way you see the world, the way that you go through your day, the way that you think, the way that you take in information, the way that you're able to kind of like see the future in a sense, um like the 12th house, yeah, like it can really hide those talents, and it can also make the person like really susceptible to like boundaries is something that has to be watched out for. Now you do have Jupiter in the 12th and Neptune in the 12th, so that, like if I've ever heard of like spiritual protection and just kind of like potential for like real psychic ability and just amazing esoteric like placements, it's those ones, right? Um Neptune in 12th, just that's its home. So it feels boundless. The person's very connected to the zeitgeist, very connected to the spiritual energies, very, connected to like Neptune, like there's one like, that's the house. That's his home house. So um, Neptune's at home, so Neptune is in a very strong placement for you. Neptune relates to like intuition, imagination, inspiration, dreams, compassion, um, unconditional love, oneness. It's just all these, it's just that kind of like divine energy, right? So it's the divine feminine too. So just really feeling like, you know, really feeling like you can excel in anything related to spirituality, anything related to understanding the occult, the esoteric. The gates to the unknown are open, and with Jupiter, you have a guardian angel that is protecting you from any difficult energies. And then the fact that Uranus is in there, Uranus likes the 12, because the 12th is boundless, and Uranus likes to be boundless, right? So that is literally like that is probably with Mercury, like I would not be surprised at all if you're clairvoyant. And I don't say that often. Like this is so crazy. And like if you're not, like I swear, just like it's like muscles. Like some people just have it, other people they really have to work on it. Um but yeah, like because Uranus in the 12th, like your dreams, you need to pay attention to your dreams, right? Because your dreams can be prophetic. You can see the future and probably see your past lives also, or like just like things that are going on for like kind of like the zeitgeist through your dreams, through your meditations, when you're in that kind of state, right? Of calming that. So the thing with the Gemini moon is that, it can make the emotions a little bit like I just talked about like the same big three. So it's like the Scorpio part is very much, I mean we have our suns trying each other like exact degree. I'm 28 point like 08, you're 27.49. So we're like at the very, it's like a nice trine between our suns. That's really cool. But yeah, it's just very, very mystical Scorpio side that's more private, that kind of would prefer to stick to itself. And then there's the Gemini moon, which is like, like you have all, like I said, all this energy I've been describing, that's, past life gifts that you have to unlock. And, even adding to that, that I didn't really like add into is the ability to see the big picture spiritually and to be able to like really, really during tough times fall into yourself, find this like well of optimism. Seeing the big picture during dark times is just so hard for so many people. And then to tap it all off, the one personal planet in that house with, Neptune, Uranus, um, Jupiter in the South Node, right? So that's showing that it is passive talents, is Mercury, your mind, your brain. It's with on a royal star Antares. So, um, like you could literally be someone who's meant through their brain, Mercury, to like really, really show people some deep truths. So definitely the chart of a healer. And Mercury with, yeah, so with Uranus, you understand it's like that's, like if someone's like has ideas that are way ahead of their time that maybe aren't, because like it makes you very rebellious with your ideas. So, if not everyone agrees with them, then you can be looked at as a weirdo or whatever. And then when you're young, it can make one make someone really, really doubt, like is there something wrong with my thinking? Like what the fuck? So also you're born right after a full moon in Taurus, but your moon, is obviously in Gemini at 0 degrees. Um, so a full moon baby, um there's an energy where like mom and dad usually have very, very different messages. A lot of times people with that have divorced parents, parents that just if they're not divorced, like if you were trying to capture like the main message from mom and from dad, they would be very, very different. Very, very, very different. And that is that full moon energy. So it really creates someone who is meant to really forge their own path in this world, right? It's not meant to follow mom, follow dad. It's really like you doing you, and that's that, right? So let's see. Yeah. Also with that, they're not in opposite signs, but still like Scorpio versus Gemini is an energy where, 0 degree moon, you're here, like a huge part of your karma, like your forward moving karma is to explore and to try things. 0 degrees is about new experiences. It's like the Fool card in tarot. Like you're here to try things, trial and error, and not just think like, okay, like this is the way it is. I'm like it's like the mantra like I know nothing. That's what needs to be followed. So being able to do that is the key. Um, and Gemini, yeah, so just like being, yeah, just curiosity, versatility, movement, um, sociability, for with people from all different backgrounds, culturally, whatever. Just really, getting, and let's see the notes. Yeah. So really just like coming to terms with like I need to go out in the world and get this information for myself. I'm not relying on anyone else. Um, so so that Jupiter opposite North Node, I would look at that as like how if you do fall into the trap of overly identifying with your philosophies, with your thoughts, or like kind of like not being willing to collaborate with others who even like people who you might even feel like, okay, they're not on my level, right? Like as like an honest thought that you're obviously not saying out loud. Um, like if you're not willing to like kind of like look at people, it's like, okay, like I might not agree with like what this person believes, but I can still learn from them in some way, right? Um, that and just like if there is any of that Jupiterian you know, um like it basically could get like the way it could get in the way is that, it could just it could just and then is it opposite? Yeah, so it's opposite Mercury too. So it's just like saying how your your Gemini moon, which is ruled by Mercury, so they're like Gemini moon sometimes can have like anxiety, overthinking, kind of like being like a little like instead of like feeling the emotions, they can feel too much in the thoughts, right? Be too logically, like their emotions are too much led by logic. Not always, but it doesn't mean that they don't have emotions. It just means that like if there's a Gemini moon and a Cancer moon, right? And the same thing happens to both of them. The Cancer moon is probably going to cry about it in the moment, really feel the emotions. While the Gemini moon might do that, or they might, just like only feel it in a few months. And you also have moon opposite Uranus, which is very interesting. Because you have Uranus, no, it's not conjunct Sun, but Uranus with the moon is very interesting because it just makes one a rebel. It makes one have a very, very, very distinct purpose in life. But they could be looked at as a weirdo early on in life or just like different. Their way of thinking, their way of seeing the world, not really wanting to fit in, like just having a very different lens than most people. Um, Now sometimes this very like anti-tradition type of way, um, just like 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 this just innate feeling of like there's something more, like there's something more. Um, it really also depends on like kind of your upbringing family wise. Like if it was very traditional, like if religion was pushed on you, for example, I just don't see how that would have worked. I mean, Sagittarius energy is very linked to religion, so who knows? But um, ultimately, Sag is linked to the truth, right? So people find that in different ways. Um, but yeah, anyways, you're really trying, and you have Pluto in the midheaven, which is a crazy placement for just being like a just powerful person, and then Pluto rules your sun, so it just makes you have a really really strong Pluto signature, and Pluto is really about letting go. It's about like finding the real type of power. It's about ego versus soul. The soul's needs versus the ego's wants. We'll get into that in a little bit. I just want to kind of continue what I was saying. So yeah, like the Gemini energy, yeah, you're really like link you're really trying to sixth house, it's about like past lives. There could have been a tendency to stay behind the scenes too much and kind of allow things to, I guess you could say, allow things like have like all the good ideas for things, but maybe not the follow through. Um, the South Node rulers, there, or actually, yeah, it's right there, conjuncted. So, um, yeah, you're here to really, yeah, go find the data. Go find the data. Like in past life, there could have been consequences when you just believed something, not like in a conditioning type of way, but like when you didn't challenge your own philosophies enough, right? Because you're here really to experience kind of like a more single pointed, like, yeah, lots of trial and error, but also a more single pointed mission, right? Um, Single pointed journey. So that's very important. And yeah, like Sixth House North Node people, like they are here to be of service. And they are here to find their routine, their health, their just their flow in their everyday life, right? Um 12th house South Node people can, if you think about it, there can be a karmic tendency to be disorganized and just very karmic energy ruling like the past lives. And you need to use your free will in this lifetime to recognize your intuition, to recognize when you're in very important karmic situations, and mindfulness to slow yourself down and just imagine, I've been here before. I've been in a situation where whatever you're going through in that moment is happening. And just think of it like this. Think like maybe in past lives, like this difficulty I'm going through right now, I failed, right? Like I failed, and now I'm here in this life and I'm trying to get it right. So yeah. Um, so yeah, having a structure in your life is very, very important. Um, I'm looking at something. Okay, okay. So you have every element in your chart. So that's good. Personal plans. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm. So yeah, Scorpio, Gemini. So yeah, I was talking about the full moon. Like, so this life is really also like a lot about karmic completions, right? It's just like the full moon is. So there's a lot of purpose to your life, and there's a feeling of like, okay, I'm continuing something that I started in past life, in different previous incarnations. Um, so there will be a lot of fate involved, right? Because you're continuing something. So when it comes to people, places, things, like all that. Um, and just like the energy of a full moon, right? It feels, it's a heavy energy, but like right when it switches, because it was at the very, very end of Taurus and Scorpio. So right when, after the full moon, when it switches, if it switches signs like yours did, the energy does feel a lot more chill. Um, but still, it's so close. It's only within two degrees. like yeah, 2 degrees. So well, 2.5 degrees, basically 2 degrees. But yeah, like just feel a full moon and just imagine, okay, that is like a big part of my energetic imprint. So there's a big need for grounding yourself, right? Because back to this Pluto ideology, Pluto is our comfort zone, but it can be that comfort zone that we don't necessarily like, but just feels safe, right? Feels like we know it. Um, mm, so yeah, anyways, karmic completions, big time mission, intensity, grounding yourself, um, like Gemini moons, they feel so this is like kind of the clash between Gemini and Scorpio. That Scorpio's private. Scorpio is a sign that would rather, it's about going very deep. It's not, it's not surface level at all. It's like allergic to surface level stuff. And Gemini is, it can, it likes small talk. It likes things that Scorpio energy would be like, this is meaningless, right? Um, feels comfortable. Like I always said, like during the lockdown, like Gemini moons, Libra moons, like those are the ones that like probably miss, the world the most, right? Like the air moons, Aquarius too, right? Because they have this real need to like share and spread information. So how you balance those two out, um, it's just about giving your Scorpio moon, which wants to go deep, or Scorpio sun, which wants to go deep. It wants to, go through that death, rebirth, transformation, right? It wants to evolve in this lifetime. So you're Scorpio. But it's like kind of like imagine these two different parts existing within yourself, and how can they come to a compromise? The Gemini moon wants fun, it wants experience, it's childish, it wants adventure. Um, it wants to, it's in the sixth house too, which is so interesting because the sun's in the 11th. So there is a very social and kind of humanitarian aspect to your life, something really linked to like just being a part of very important, powerful groups, and just your dharma in general being very, very important. Um, but then having Chiron, right? Like Chiron, well, actually, let's go with Antares Mercury. So the fixed star Antares on your Mercury, which is with, Jupiter and Uranus. Um, it can actually make one quite suspicious. You have to watch out for making like wrongful accusations. Um, but like the more advanced version of that is to just like use humor to kind of offset any of this kind of energy. Um, Sometimes people with this, like if they're religious, um, they might, try to have like a business um related to that. So yeah, it's actually a difficult placement, but it's also very much about speaking the truth. Um, which many people just can't handle, right? Just really, really raw, unfiltered. This is what it is. So I think with the opposition of the Uranus of someone who's just doing things so differently, that's like how like more traditional people can potentially get upset, right? So yeah, as I was saying, Moon 0 degrees, Chiron 0 degrees, like you are here to be a healer in some type of way. I have no doubt. Um, that just speaks of like a karmic wound, most likely from the mother, and mm, mhm. Oh, yes. Yeah, so with the moon and Chiron, it definitely is speaking to like a lot of times it could be abandonment from the parents, either physically or emotionally, but just like not being there for you when you need them. And as a result, it makes someone who's usually didn't learn how to nurture themselves. And sometimes in some cases it can indicate the parents didn't want to really take care of the kid. Mm. And it would just have brought a lot of like sadness and periods of sadness and just like a real need to like go deep within yourself and find all those talents, those latent healing talents you have from past lives, to use them to heal yourself in this lifetime. And the purpose of that is so that you can then go heal others. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm. So yeah, that's very common for people that I when I say healer, I don't mean like you for sure have a your career in that. I'm just saying that, you know, there's potential for that. Whether it's something, that you practice more and more. And healer can mean anything. It can mean astrologer, psychologist, even an artist, like whatever. Like a lot of things heal people. Also just like people in your life, family members, friends. Mm. What's really amazing with the Chiron energy is that astrology is so helpful. It just like it really, really, and it reflects like it helps the Chiron moon person a lot because then they see, oh, this is like I went through all of this for a reason, right? But yeah, it's lots of early memories that kind of really make their mark. Um, what was that? No. One second. Mika, Mika, Mika. Is that who is that? Not Mila. Is that Esme? Esme, oh, you're there. Stop complaining. You have to be twice today. Okay. So yeah, it's really about like going deep into and that's what's kind of hard for an air moon, right? And this is like the kind of issue is that the moon's the emotions. So when you have an air moon, you can be kind of detached from emotions and prefer logic over emotions. So yeah, just like the need to really feel into those, to lean into your Scorpio energy. So you see kind of what I'm saying with like the need to balance these two out. It's like um I feel like there's like karmic completion around like the karmic relationships with your parents, or at least one of them. And just with lots of things in your life, right? Saturn ruled chart, that's someone who will go through like lots of ups and downs, lots of like first 30 years really feeling like until the Saturn return passes, really feeling like the universe is kind of fucking with them. Like why do I have to like it's like two steps forward, three steps back, that kind of shit. Um, and then they have all this, so it makes someone like a Cap rising is someone who a lot of times had to really be the person in their family, um, even at a young age. Sometimes they have to parent their parents. Um, but yeah, it's usually like it's exact degree, so it's usually like an early trauma, tied to the mother. A lot of times like with this, like the mother couldn't take care of the child or just provide like the nurturing that the child needed. So yeah, it's really like emotional wounding is the word. And because the moon also represents the subconscious memories, like I was saying before, you kind of have to go deep to really find them and recoup them. And then through your own healing journey, you're able to inspire others. And it's all about feeling safe and nurtured, right? So through your intuition and your creativity, you have all the tools to do that. Um, so yeah, like because it's the pain is in the subconscious, until it's healed, like the pain just kind of repeats itself. Um, and because the moon rules females too, a lot of times there's like, regardless of gender, like the person will find their relationship with females quite painful. Um, and even when it comes to romance, a lot of times they'll go for people who, at least at the start, don't really take care of them. Esme, what are you? Oh, he's fighting a paperback. So yeah, it's really important to know that, the parents didn't know any better. They're just humans, you know. There can be anger with this and blame. And the only way to really get through it is just to learn to let go, to learn that acceptance. Um, a lot of times also the mother was not, and this could also be with the air moon thing, was not like maybe comfortable with her like nurturing feminine side. And it's usually quite generational because like she probably didn't receive it either. Um, yeah, so it really helps when you just kind of start to see it. Okay, like when that point when people start to see their parents as like just other humans who were just clueless, once children. But yeah, so a lot of times, like with this, it's the person feeling like it can be really tied to abandonment issues. Um, and that soul wound that needs healing. And that's when Scorpio comes in the hands. Um, and there can be loneliness. There can be different insecurities that come up. Feeling like you're like a burden to other people, right? Like stuff like that. Um, and oftentimes because someone with this aspect didn't feel taking didn't really get nurtured in the right way, they don't know how to take care of themselves, right? So they have to learn that. There's just so much learning. Um, very difficult when young. Um, yeah, so like I said, it's a lot of like passed on stuff. Like the mother was wounded, the mother's mother was most likely wounded. Something that gets passed on, you're here to break that. You're the person who's here. And I have a lot of clients who I tell this, like, you are the one. You are the one. So all this is very karmic. And often, it's like I was saying, like the mother feeling overwhelmed by her own issues and maybe even expecting you to solve them, right? Um, it's like I was saying before, like you being the mother instead of her potentially. And I say mother, but like I just mean like the early nurturing. I don't like guessing which parent it was. I mean, it's not really guessing. The moon is usually the mother, but I've also had it be the other way around. So yeah. So like part of the wounding can be like difficulty standing up for yourself as an adult. Um, and just overall the word worthiness, right? Um, feeling truly worthy for whatever it might be. Yeah, it's just something that has to get, that one has to get past. There's no, there's no like secret code to it. It's just through, tapping into your mystical energy. And I think with any kind of like stuff with parents, like I keep saying, it really is about whatever it is. If you do a ceremony, um, just whatever it takes to kind of clear the energy. Um, and yeah, having that awareness, that perspective, right? But the good thing with Moon and Chiron is that learning to really stand up for yourself, right? Um, and show your feelings. Because a lot of times people with this, they hide their feelings and their needs. Um, and there's can be like this great retreat, right? Which with your South Node and 12th house, that can be a tendency to retreat yourself into like the unknown, right? So it's about that sixth house, that Virgo energy, that service to others. Also, animals could be very, very healing for you. Animals, sixth house, and just having a real day-to-day routine that hits your emotional, spiritual, physical, everything, and being as consistent with that as possible. Mm, mm. Yeah, so with relationships, it's like there can be like a deep fear of intimacy, but then also craving it so much. So often it takes longer to get relationships going because there's that fear of abandonment. But of course, like I've also seen this um play out in different ways. Um, I've seen it play out in ways where the individual is, you know, didn't have that experience. Like there were parts of it, but there still is a level of free will, right? Like I do readings for parents, right? So it's like I know that's still kind of built in there, but I can tell a parent like, look, you need to watch out for this, you know, like they have this placement, you need to make sure you give them whatever it might be. Mm, 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 mm. I'm thinking. Let's see. Yeah. Um, so the thing about having Pluto at 0 degrees, ruling your sun Scorpio, and just like Scorpio in general, like you're here to give a bunch back to humanity. And you know the saying, you can never kill a Scorpio. Um, they're just mega resilient and they get up when they're down. So I think that any early experiences and like I was saying, on a psychological level, there's a need to kind of understand that, the whole blazing your own trail thing is not easy. It's easier said than done. Not a lot of times it's just like not feeling like there's like a role model for you and you're here to live your life in a way that's very, very different than your parents or, other people around you. But if there's two things I see a lot of with my clients, it's Pluto, Moon, and Uranus, Mercury. Because Uranus, Mercury creates those people who just see see what the others don't see. They just innately kind of understand, you know, astrology and just like spirituality, and just very they they think outside the box. They're not brainwashed, right? So yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, hmm, yeah, just like Jupiter is so interesting because Jupiter and Sag is like the best place where you can have Jupiter, and it's like it creates like a very good, like someone who's like all about adventure, but who's also all about travel adventure, who's all about like learning and teaching. Um, so you have like a lot of strong places. Back to what I was saying before, right? Um, the Scorpio is your sun sign, and that makes perfect sense for you because that's a sign of a healer. That's a sign of someone who is allowing themselves to let go. But the thing with Scorpio is that there's a need to like let go in a way that is healthy. Um, to not push against the current of life, to kind of just let things flow. And sometimes when there's like Scorpios have like early trauma or early like difficult stuff going on, it can be like it's not necessarily like a trauma, like it can be just be like a collection of trauma, right? And yeah, because it's literally like 0.03 away from Chiron. Like that is so close to the moon in Chiron. But yeah, the Scorpio, it with like it's almost like through your career, your dharma, that you have this like really like this real kind of powerful energy to really want to transform the world and be like a very great leader. But you have to be really attached to what you're doing on a really but it can make one like almost like have like an obsessive energy um with their mission and what they're here to do. So yeah, Pluto midheaven people, like they're world changers. I mean, I don't see it that much, but they definitely are. Going back to kind of like the moon, right? I definitely think that like I want to say it again, like slowing down, like moon opposite Uranus can also like, especially moon Gemini opposite Uranus, like that to me screams like potential for anxiety issues um and yeah, just difficulty when it comes to being able to ground the self. It's like if you're a superpower, there's a certain importance in being able to slow down. There's a certain importance in being able um to ground when you need to. So, and it's almost like not being able to do that will take away a lot of the powers, and being too in the mental sphere also will have that same effect, right? We're too much in our mental, and we're like it's about linear and non-linear thinking, right? Um, existing in the linear or the non-linear. Um, linear time, non-linear time. So, there can always be anxieties that can come up or things that like reasons, like, and that's when like the whole meditation thing comes in, or mindfulness, or just being present. It gives a pause to that Gemini moon. The opposite of Uranus can really make the emotions bounce all over the place, right? It definitely gives, like one thing that's for sure is that you have like a deep emotional need for freedom and for individuality. And for change. It can kind of create like a almost like an obsession for switching things up. Grass is greener on the other side type energy, which can reflect in relationships also. It could also a lot of time reflect in like moving a lot, right? If you grew up, especially if you grew up in a situation where you had to move around as an adult, there can kind of be like a restlessness until one, really does find their home physically and metaphorically. Um, mm, so yeah, the Scorpio 11th house part is speaking to like your important mission and how it takes time. There's different chapters. There's the healing. There's, maybe even like Dharma wise doing something that doesn't relate to that. And everything is kind of set in a way that 11th house sons, like, their friends are really important to them. The groups that they join are really important to them. But what I see it as is finding people with common goals and common aspirations that they can come together with. That's like the best thing. Um, like synergy, right? And it's gonna be very niche what you're, like your life, I feel like it's very, very niche. And the fact that you have this Capricorn rising with all of this, there is this real kind of responsible part of you also, right? Like there's a lot of it's very responsible. Now Saturn's in the 11th, so what's interesting there, or 10th in classes, but what's interesting there is that that's where you want your Saturn, and like if it's in classes in 10th. It can give great abilities in organizing one's career and public success, and after overcoming shortcomings in the first 30 years, it's where you want Saturn. But if you look at it from a whole sign perspective, which I do whole sign by mix and plastis, um it often relates to someone who would rather have a few very good friends than a lot of like, you know, kind of friends. And that's a very Scorpio thing also, right? And oftentimes it's not until after the Saturn turn that they really like meet their core tribe or truly feel like they're, get a glimpse of their true mission. And the midheaven, it's in Libra, so that could be a million different things. Venus from midheaven. Venus is over there in Libra with Mars. So, and that's in the 10th, 9th in classes. So that goes back to the idea of, when you have Libra placements like that, Venus and Mars, like with your love language, it's very, very romantic, very much about peace, very much about grace, very much about um, like people being the same, like you can't be with someone where it's just crazy. And that's kind of one of the things with Scorpio too, is that if there's unhealed trauma, they can kind of I guess Klingon's not the right word, but like they can use like submersive, like kind of manipulation techniques to keep that person with them. Um, so it, I always say with Scorpio, it's like the true power is within. Um, and the low vibe Scorpio energy is trying to find the power through dominating other people or through, just through different things like that. Um, control, like the fear of giving up control can be very real for Scorpio. So once that's able to be done, and I think a big part of like the Chiron moon is being able to speak about emotions, right? Being able to like be vulnerable and Scorpios, and that's the thing is that makes it more difficult is that Scorpio is a very private sign. But then Gemini isn't. So that's kind of like how to get both to work with each other. It's like understanding that on one end there's this real private, reserved part, and then on the other there's this part that wants to go out and experience a lot. So those are definitely clash, but that's what astrology can show us. It's like it makes you brainstorm. Okay, how do I make these work together? Um, mm, so yeah, moving towards action, moving towards like I feel like you understand like there is a deep purpose. There isn't like this like kind of I don't want to say nihilistic, that's the wrong word. Like there isn't this kind of like confusion. Like I feel like innately like you understand a lot of very deep things about um existence and just what is. I don't know how to say it. So there is a lot of understanding there. Um, but yeah, even with that, just needing to really like take that into something really physical, right? That's kind of the key we're dealing with here. And like I keep saying, Pluto, like it's like you when you find that real dharma, that real career, you heal through that, right? But also you can really meet your shadow in your dharma. But like I think Pluto on the midheaven also like it can become so obsessed with what it's doing that it can become like a workaholic, you know? But like there's a lot of like politicians and stuff, like very like like very, very important people in the world, like from that standpoint, who have like 10th house Plutos, or midheaven Plutos. So yeah, it's very, very powerful. And I think the more you lean into yeah, just to just like trial and error. The idea of trial and error, the more you move into that, the more you grow. And the more you move towards that that north node higher destiny. Hmm. So with like love and relationships and stuff, um, there's definitely like I was saying, Venus in Libra is all about it's like such a beautiful placement because the person, one, it's very, very creative, very artistic, but it's very, very good at seeing the beauty in their partner. And it's 10th house, whole sign, 9th house classes. So there's this level of really, really like kind of being driven towards finding a deeper truth, right? Which is all over your chart, whether it's traveling or whether it's, whatever it is, learning from different philosophies, different worldviews, all that. But there's also, like I said, this deep drive towards your work, right? This deep, deep drive towards, and I feel like your work probably heals you in some way. So, yeah, it's really pivotal to have it reflect yourself. But yeah, with love, as I was saying, you're part of fortune's on the descendant. Look at that. That's a beautiful placement. In Cancer. So that just gives a lot of fortune, a lot of like you're at your best when you're in a relationship. Things just kind of work. Um, then you got Juno in the IC in Aries. So I mean, oh yeah, part of fortune descendant in Cancer. That's kind of like other. So like just that sensitive, more sensitive energy. But then mixed with that Aries Juno, which is like your ideal mate. It's in the IC, so it is Cancer also. Um, so it's really a mix of like this really fun, active, independent, yet still very grounding. Like that person represents a metaphoric home, right? Like that's what they represent to you, is like a metaphoric home. So that's kind of that. And then with the Libra, Mars and Venus together, that usually creates someone who has quite a bit of sex appeal, or quite a bit of like like people, they're it's definitely good in the sense that it's good for popularity, it's good for relationships. Venus can take on like a kind of more go-getter role, but then Mars, like I don't know. It definitely adds a lot of passion, and usually like someone like is quite loyal and committed as a lover. And it's very good for for creativity, for being creative, especially in Libra. You have a lot of like really good placements, like dignity placements and stuff, like Venus and Libra. You have Neptune in 12th house, Jupiter in Sag. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Difficulty though. Well, actually, yeah. So I think Venus Mars, it definitely makes someone like a relationship person, where they like really seek out relationships, and they can take like a lot of their time. So um yeah, it can be better for them to kind of like, sometimes it's like the intensity that they like love with can be too much for a partner. They often have like many marriages, or just like not much trouble finding like a new partner, but like yeah, they just like the thrill of the chase. um and it's, yeah, good for popularity, as I said. And it just creates like just for like career stuff, like very like goal directed energy, and like a lot of passion, like someone who can like really um you know find passions easily. And how you relate to the opposite sex is super based with on this one, with how you relate to your father. So yeah, especially true with that conjunction. So Mars and Libra, you don't have a very, there's not many aspects, but Mars is square Neptune. So that one is the aspect that has to do with just don't use substances. I don't know. It can be kind of like it is one that definitely is linked to addiction. Doesn't mean you are an addict, but a lot of people, clients I've had who have that, they like don't drink or don't smoke or don't do anything at all, but they just but like their like they have like oh it's just this trend I've seen, but their families like they saw like the bad example in their families and they were just like, I'm not touching that shit, whatever it is. Um, but yeah, I mean, like Neptune square Mars, in it's a very difficult position, um, in detriment in Libra, which makes one Mars in Libra is known for being quite indecisive. You know, that's why like with relationships, it's really, really important to not be with like an energy vampire type. I know that could go for everyone, but like there needs to be that fairness and that trust and loyalty and just knowing who that person is. Because like Mars and Libra, yeah, it can just be like very wishy-washy and have a lot of trouble with assertiveness and with kind of like getting its needs across. Um, so yeah, I mean it's just important, right? Yeah, it's important. Mars and Libra to have like a constitution of self is what I call it. Where you're making your decisions based off of these morals that you sort of cling to. Like, because what can happen is that people with that can, by default, just go with the other person. Oh, you decide, you decide, you decide. And then not wanting to rock the boat so much. Like it makes one very diplomatic and very good at seeing the other person's perspective. But like there can be that tendency to really, really want to make everyone happy and sometimes allow themselves to be pushed down, um, in order to ensure the balance, uh, whether it's with someone or in a certain situation, whatever it is, right? So, and then yeah, Venus Libra is a great placement, right? But also just yeah, just like making sure that relationships is not like an overblow, you know. Um, so yeah, finding relationships that are balanced, and I think there can also be like with the part of fortune that on the descendant, that definitely would make, usually that does create a lot of luck when it comes to finding good relationships. So that's good. Um, and yeah, just like the Gemini energy needs fun, it needs fun. And then the Scorpio energy it needs fun, it needs newness, it needs to feel like it's like intellectually connected to the partner. And then, just being a Scorpio in general, obviously, like, um, I feel like Scorpios just need like a level of privacy, of seriousness, of loyalty. So yeah, that's kind of like the love formula. Those are what I think are the needs. Let's see here. Mm, so yeah, it could even be in your career, like if you're working or something, if you're working, um, where you meet the person, that you're meant to be with. But also 10th house, Venus gives like a lot, and Mars also, like the Venus gives like a lot of beauty. Like it can make someone like, especially Libra, um, in that position in midheaven, it can make someone want to work in like a very beautiful, chill kind of surrounding, have beauty really, really kind of pop up in their work life. And Mars 10th house, yeah, so that's another warning of like it's very go-getter, but just not being too overly go-getter. Because then that can, affect that sixth house moon. Also, a sixth house moon is a very, very difficult placement because the sixth house has to do with what we deal with on a daily basis. So to have the moon there, it means that we're dealing with our emotions, right? On a daily basis. So it's like a daily grind um, to really stay regulated, like it's like when can I get a break from this? So that's why there's that just utmost importance of routine, um, and of like emotional connection with your work. Um, there'd be a lot of issues, I feel like, if that connection didn't exist. And just that feeling, like that feeling of just going through the motions just would not work with it placements like that, in my opinion. So that's the sixth. That makes you a very committed worker in Gemini, very, very good communicator, someone who, can really network well, who like who can really who's good at like the art of communication. Um, master the art of communication. And Vertex and Leo, that's kind of saying how it's through the inner child that you find the greatest, like it's like the doorway to your higher awareness is through authentic creativity. So like if you can have a creative outlet or just like, authentic self-expression in itself. And Leo obviously is passion, fun, children. So it could be through children. Anything that's your own creation is what, how you can really get yourself up to that next level, right? The- It's not like the North Node. North Node's different. Vertex is like a faded point too, so it could be during times of stress or just like difficult times in your life that people who are Leos, who have Leo in their chart, um, come along and help. So if you see someone who has like 18 Leo, important placement or around there, then that's and they cross your path naturally. That's very faded. And same goes for your North Node at 16 gem. Ooh, I like the Palace first house. I think that's like an entrepreneurial thinker in Capricorn, someone who's able to like methodically kind of plan their career really well, like a chess player when it comes to the career and the career slash dharma, like the outer life. And yeah, just a disciplined person, right? Now Gemini moon usually would not be associated with that word, but like the whole rest of the chart, it's, at least there's a very disciplined side, and there's a side that needs to let loose sometimes. Because it's like it's only through exploration and through letting go that we find that we have our best realizations, that we find our best the best things in life, right? Where we can be different. Mm-mm. Trying to think of what else. What's So yeah, at a certain point in your life, you meet a tribe of people that's very, very important for your growth and for your overall life. I kind of already talked about that, but yeah, like a lot of times, 11th house people, 11th house some people, it's like their greatest purpose in life, like their greatest accomplishment, their greatest everything. It's this process that takes like it's later in life that they truly, truly feel it. I've talked to a lot of people, I have a lot of friends with that, and they resonate with that a lot. It's like it's not that necessarily that the person isn't doing something with themselves, but it's like it's all leading up to something massive, especially when the world's, going to be changing here, like big time, 2025, 2026, big astrological shift. Um, I think that it is these, people like you, 11th house people who are really going to be the people who are going to be leaders and healers of tomorrow, the people that the people that people come to as they're trying to grow spiritually. So it'll be the new thing. Not for everyone, obviously, but more and more people are gonna wake up to it. So yeah, just being able to go into your meditation, into your kind of having that alone time, the sacred alone time, maybe having an altar and really just kind of noting down whatever it is that you um realize, like a dream journal would be like the best thing possible. um the Black Moon Lilith is interesting in Ceres is also there in Aquarius in second. So Ceres in Aquarius is just like you feel nurtured when you're helping the world, when you're with really, really good friends, um when you are, yeah, just kind of giving back. Okay. So my eyes are closer still. Yeah, like Sirius second house, like sometimes they're very giving, right? Like they can be very giving, like with like money and just possessions and stuff like that. Good gift givers. And I think like Sirius and Aquarius also, they're very good at giving other people their individuality. Like they're very good at like allowing other people to just be themselves, even if it's like the quirky kind of like eccentric, but they really appreciate when that's given to them, and also when they're given lots of space. And really like liking to yeah, good at kind of teaching other people to just accept one another for all the eccentricities and all those things. But Black and Lilith in Aquarius is interesting. Of course it represents the more dark side of our personality, that it's not a planet, so it's kind of like something that it can come out. In Aquarius, it can be really like the sphere of like being isolated, but also I think it can be like being overly aloof, which is linked to the Gemini moon. And like air moons, like I said, they can have that potential to just be up in here and not in touch with their emotions as much. Not that they don't have them, right? It's just like, yeah. So I think in Aquarius there's that, and um the fear of being powerless that can lead to like isolation, and kind of like hiding one's weaknesses from the world. So it's kind of like this power that you have to like build people up, but also crush them. Um, and if one does feel powerless or weak, they can kind of, start to have this projection where they really judge people who they deem weak, right? Um, and what can happen here is that the person can either fear that powerlessness, right? They can fear it, or they can fear their own powers. It's like this real back and forth, right? Um, yeah, you see, that's very scorpionic in itself. So how that integrates, it comes, with you asking yourself the question of, how are you truly using or not using your own power, right? What is power to you? Is power something internal that you get from overcoming struggles, or is it something that is, you know, external and that is used to control people and that is linked to money and social status and stuff like that, right? So self-reinforcement is very important. To stop yourself from potentially neglecting yourself. And then also most importantly, just building other people up every chance you get, right? Um, Sometimes Black Widows in the second house, there can be like issues with money. Um, but it's all about like breaking any kind of like cycle of like financial self-sabotage that might exist. Sometimes the self-esteem is if there's self-esteem issues, they can be linked to the monetary ones. And yeah, Black Widow with Aquarius also, Aquarius is friends, so it can just make friendships like a little bit difficult. And it's feeling like your friends are failing to live up to your expectations, but you can't count on them or something like that. Also, Black Widows and Aquarius sometimes like will reject other people before they can reject them. Like they think that they're gonna get rejected, so they'll just like not let other people get close, like the aloofness. That's also a shadow of Gemini Moon is that, like I was saying before, like kind of jumping all over the place, not being able to really like be grounded in one kind of realm of existence. So, so yeah. Okay. Let's pull this. Yeah, also best of six is like very, very committed to serving others, and like healing. Yeah. So I think like part of fortune and seven house cancer, also another way to look at it is like the cancer part could be through like being a mother that you find lots of joy and that's kind of your sweet spot, but also having like this deep spiritual relationship, emotional relationship with yourself where you're not neglecting that emotional side like sometimes air moons can do. And seventh house, it's through relationships, through union, right? But with all those two Libra signs or planets, excuse me, it's like just important to not be codependent, right? But as a Gemini moon, I doubt that's the case. Gemini moons, they like to be free. They like to be free, and yeah, I'm trying to think of like any Gemini moon I've met that's like been clingy or um just overly dependent on relationships to define themselves. I can't think of one. So they exist, they just kind of and yeah, especially opposite Uranus. And yeah, you have a nice moon trine Mars. That's very good for self-confidence and connecting your emotions to your actions. Yeah. Someone who can like, yeah, like being able to like rise to the challenge when it comes. So another thing about the moon opposite sun, like the full moon energy, is that like sometimes now this works more if it's opposite signs, 'cause you have 5 signs away, not 6 signs away, because you're at the very start of Gemini, your degrees. But if one doesn't integrate, like if you don't integrate the Scorpio and the Gemini and kind of feed both mouths, there can be a potential for really kind of giving in to finding a partner unconsciously who has like an excess of the one that you're not giving yourself. And what's wrong with that is that you're meant to find this wholeness in yourself, right? So, and if you rely on someone else for it, then it's like kind of like a drug or something like that. Yeah, I think like sun, moon people like opposite moon can be very indecisive. So that could be a theme with that Mars and Libra too. Um, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then just no decision gets made. So it really is about like what is that big driving force, that goal, like what am I really trying to accomplish? Like what really matters? That's the question. That's the Sagittarius energy is trying to figure that out. And that's through trial and error, through experiencing all these random things in life, the answers will come. Yes, man, bring your ball over here. You're not gonna help me with my reading, as me? Okay, let's look for asteroids. Do you have one of the which asteroids Circe with Neptune? So the 12th house, so that is interesting. You could you could have like which energy, like whether it's ceremonies, herbs, anything like tarot, astrology, numerology, all this stuff. It'd be very advantageous for you to learn. So the coming together, the sun moon midpoint is in Leo. Um, that's a point that basically it's like I explained how your sun and moon are 5 signs away. It's the full moon. They're at odds, right? They have different goals, Gemini and Scorpio, right? They're very different. So the sun moon midpoint like gives us this clue of how to really find that um what's the word? That kind of balance between the two, that compromise between the two. So, mm, so in Leo, I think that performance is really important. Um, Creative expression, being able to dip into your inner child, and yeah, and just in a marriage, the partner who is able to play, as I said before, um, but also very loyal, proud. Um, so yeah, it's really about kind of not like in an egotistical way, like being in the spotlight, you know, and having that important, importance is the wrong word, but just like feeling like you really create something of value. Ooh, you have Urania on Venus, so that's the asteroid of astrology. Um, so it's right between your Mars and your Venus. Um, yeah, so maybe there's something with astrology for you. That's interesting. Cassandra Midheaven, so I never seen what you look like. I never ever look at anything, but that is about beauty. That's one of the ones Haley looks at, but I know that one's about like very like princessy beauty. Eyes twitching. The screen, look at this screen. I'm not even tired, just, too much screen time. And dim it. I don't know why I don't dim it. I have a program that I just click one button and it turns into a red. What does Uranus do again? Sorry, I need to look that up. Is there even anything on that? This is extreme and abnormal ideas. Mm, mm, mm. Potential for more than one marriage. And then it says it can cause spasm to the sciatic nerve down through part of the thigh. It's not painful, but it is unstable as the person will shake, slightly when they try to put weight on that side. I don't know if this is real or not. Hops would be of great help and should be taken 3 times per week in an herb tea such as chamomile, which would help relax the muscles. There's the big one right there. What if you actually had that and that saved you? Amazing. All right. And another asteroid that makes me think that, there probably was something kind of difficult with the mother. Um, so yeah, how long have I gone? 1 hour 40. All right, that's it. Did you get the follow-up? Let's check. No. Well, if you want to add the follow-up in current astrology, I will do it for 360. I'll write that down too. That's a big discount. Usually it's like closer to 600. If you, but basically the follow-up is an hour where we talk only about everything that I talked about today. That's the first hour. It's comparing your lived experience with what I brought up today. And after that, we bring all the current astrology. We always have astrology that's affecting us in different times of our lives. So that's when I bring the transits, the solar return. I pull everything up. Some astrologers will have a different reading that they make the person pay for each one. For me, it's I do everything. So yeah, house ingress, progressed moon or progressed planets, progressed moon cycle, like a bunch of really interesting stuff. And it always like integrates so perfectly it's just so magical, these sessions. So let me know if you want to do that. Regardless, thank you so much. And I really hope you enjoy. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.